I'm very excited. This is a topic that is that I'm very passionate about, that I'm very fascinated with. And I just want to make sure that I set the tone, and I want to make sure that you know that today we're just going to cover the basics. So if you were expecting something that you would see in medical school, we're not going to get there. But my goal today is to simply talk about things that surround germs, so you're comfortable with the terminology. Because today we were kind of overwhelmed, or throughout these past few weeks, we're overwhelmed with so much news about germs. So I don't want to overwhelm you. I just want to make sure that we cover the basics so you feel comfortable when you hear things about germs. Now, without further ado, this is your first time joining us. Let me go ahead and tell you a little bit about the Women's Fund. So the Women's Fund is a nonprofit organization that works with both women and girls in the Houston area. Everything that we do is for the purpose to provide them with the tools necessary so they can become better advocates for their health. Now, if this is, again, your first time joining us and you don't know too much about the Women's Fund, I encourage you to go to our website, thewomensfund.org, and there you can browse the web and learn more about our programs, which we do with adolescent girls and with women. You can also download PDF versions of our publications, which I think it's neat. We provide them to you at no cost at all. And if you like what you see, I encourage you to share it with your loved ones. And also you can put it in order to receive physical copies of the publications. However, because we are practicing social distancing, we are not in the office at the moment, but when we get back, we will be happy to complete those orders for you. Now, I also encourage you to follow us on social media. We are on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. There we post things like reminders about events like these, and we also post resources, which vary from sleep hygiene or things like is the water safe, right, during this pandemic. Now, I am going to stop sharing my screen just so you can focus on, sorry, not my screen, my webcam, so you can focus on the PowerPoint. So give me one moment. I'm stopping that video. There you go. Now, for those of you just joining, my name is Ana Belén Zelaya, and I am one of the Education and Outreach Coordinators at the Women's Fund. I do want to mention that I ask all participants to remain on mute today. At the end of the session, there will be time for questions. I'll do my best to look at the chat. If you do want to participate, I don't know, send like, post a little comment or something, feel free to use the chat as well. I do have some colleagues in the chat, so if you post anything and they can answer, they will do that for me. Otherwise, I will answer questions at the end. So let me go ahead and give you an overview of what exactly we're gonna cover today. Give me one sec, here you go. So today we're gonna cover water, hygiene, and sanitation and health very briefly. Then we'll talk about types of germs, the way that they spread, and we'll talk about the immune system and immunity. Then we'll end the lecture portion with what to do if you are sick. And we'll do a fun activity, which I call Mythbusters. And at that time, we're gonna actually use this program called Slido. So it's gonna be interactive. So if you have your phone available, use it or have it ready to use. Otherwise, don't worry, I'm gonna share the screen and the quiz is gonna be up, so you can also write down your answers in a piece of paper, but it will be fun to have your participation on the site itself. And then we'll have some time at the end to review and close. That's when you can ask questions, and I'll share more information on things that are happening in the near future, okay? So after this session, all participants, which means you, should be able to list the different types of disease-causing germs. You should be able to name the parts of the immune system and understand what to do when you are sick. So before I begin and dive into the session where we talk about germs in detail, I do want to start with a story. And this is where we kind of are going to talk about water, sanitation, hygiene, and health. And I don't want to say that again, so I'm going to say watch from moving forward. So if you have ever taken a biology course, maybe in college, you've seen this map before. And this map is important because it is the precursor map to the Johns Hopkins map that we've all been using during this pandemic to track the spread of COVID-19. But what's interesting about this map is that during this time, so if you see the date 1854, we didn't know what germs were. But John Snow, who's a physician, created this map because he was fascinated and alarmed with the cholera outbreak and how many people were dying in the specific area that you see here. So I'm going to zoom in. There you go. And what I want you to see in the map, so let me see if I can use my mouse to point. Yeah, there you go. So right here, it says Broad Street. You'll see that the map has this little dot that says pump. And what Jon Snow was able to do by tracking people who were family members of those that died or those that got sick, he was able to say, there's a lot of people dying around this pump. And so he was able to put 2 and 2 together and said, what would happen if people stopped drinking the water? And so he was able to gather the data. He talked to decision makers, and they said, okay, we'll remove the handle for of this pump, Jon Snow, just this once, and we'll see if you know what you're talking about. And he actually did, right? So he was able to prove something was happening. The water pump was contaminated. I don't know what germs are, but it's definitely not just stinky smells. There's something in the water, and it feels like it's a living organism. Now, fast forward to 2020, we've come a long way. But the reason I'm sharing this story is because a lot of us in this session, we have had access to WASH. And so we take for granted water, sanitation, hygiene as far as, it being safe. But today, right now, in a global aspect, inadequate sanitation, unsafe water, poor hygiene does cause a lot of this. It causes this as far as unsafe births. I believe it's about 1 million, and about 829 deaths occur annually because people don't have access to safe water, sanitary conditions, or proper education and hygiene. Okay, so that's just a global aspect, but let's focus on what we can do for ourselves. Oh, and also you are going to get this presentation, like a PDF version after this Zoom meeting. So don't worry about playing with the QR codes. If you want to go ahead and open that, you can, but then you're also going to get the PDF version and you'll be able to access all of the information. A lot of stuff that we're covering, I don't have too much time to expand on it, but those QR codes will help you read more about the topic. Okay. So what terms are we going to see in this session? Well, these are the terminology that I want you to become familiar with. So it's going to be hygiene, infectious diseases, germs, host, and cleaning. So hygiene is a degree to which people keep themselves or their environment clean. Infectious diseases are disorders or diseases that are caused by organisms that are passed directly or indirectly from one person to another. Germs are microscopic particles capable of causing disease, and you will hear me refer to germs as pathogens and infectious agents. So if you do hear those terms, do know that I'm also talking about germs. Germs is just a non-scientific word that we give pathogens that cause disease. Host is an organism that harbors another organism inside or near their body. And cleaning refers to the removal of germs, dirt, and impurities. So don't confuse also cleaning with disinfecting. I know I used to always confuse the terms, but disinfecting refers to using chemicals to kill germs on surfaces. Okay, whew, that was a mouthful, so let's go ahead and jump into the session. So what are the different types of germs? Well, there are 4 main types of germs that cause disease. And so the first one's bacteria. The second one's viruses. The third one's fungi, which is the plural word for fungus. It's a fun word to say. And number 4 is parasites. So I'm gonna be honest with you. Most of us are familiar with the top 2, and the bottom 2 we probably have heard here and there, but we might not be too familiar with them. So I do hope that looking at it closer, you're able to identify illnesses that are caused by the last 2. So what are bacteria? So bacteria are single-celled germs, and they get nutrients from their environment. They can reproduce outside or inside the body, and they release toxins, which are proteins that can make you sick. Viruses, on the other hand, those are non-living, microscopic particles. And I know it's confusing because they are able to reproduce, but they're considered non-living. Why? Well, they have all the necessary machinery to reproduce, but they can only reproduce if they infect a cell. So they have like a capsule that's made out of protein, and inside of it there's DNA, but they can't reproduce if they don't have a cell to infect. Okay, so, and there's actually viruses that can infect bacteria, just by the way, just a little fact. But moving on, so fungi, again, plural for fungus. Fungi are multi-celled plant-like organisms. They love damp, warm environments, and they actually don't pose a threat to people that are relatively healthy, but they are dangerous to people who are immunocompromised or can pose a threat. I think dangerous is a strong word, but they can pose a threat to people who are immunocompromised. Now, the last one is parasites. And parasites is an umbrella term for like pathogens like protozoa and helminths. But let me explain. So parasites live on or in other organisms. They use the host resources to reproduce and live. And although most are microscopic, they can grow very, very large, and they can grow up to 99 feet long. That is unbelievable to me. I can't imagine seeing that or having that inside of you. But yes, so they usually are microscopic in size, but they can grow very, very, very long. So what do germs do? Now, if you didn't notice, something that I kept repeating was that they use the energy, or they're in a host. That's what germs do, yes. But what do they do when they're inside? Well, they draw all their energy away from the host. They can cause symptoms like fever, increased heart rate, low blood pressure, life-threatening diseases or illness. And they can damage or destroy healthy cells, impairing the function of body parts, right? And so I do want to point out that these symptoms, these are not the only symptoms, right? So some pathogens cause, for instance, diarrhea, vomiting, rashes, all of that good stuff. But these are some of the main symptoms that we can see across the board, but it doesn't mean that you have to have this to see if you're infected or whatever it might be. All right, so now this is where you get to interact a little bit because I'm tired of talking. So I want to ask you to use the chat feature. If you can't see it, you can find it where it says more and look for chat. And I want you to tell me common diseases that you know that are caused by germs. And I'm going to give you about a couple seconds. So let's do 30 seconds. I'm going to open the chat real quick. Hold on. There you go. Awesome. So I'm going to wait on you. So again, I'm asking you, what kind of diseases do you know of that are caused by germs? We went over the top four, or four pathogens. And so do you know any of these diseases or diseases caused by these pathogens? Cool. Thanks, Angela. Oh, okay. Cool. Thank you, Jennifer. Yes. Okay. So the one that we're saying, all of us have said cold. We have the flu. Okay. Are there any others? I know those are like common. All right. 10 more seconds. No one answers. We'll look at a list. Okay. So we have Angela, Jennifer. Okay. So we said flu, cold, bronchitis, measles. Yes. Thank you, Michelle. Thank you. Oh my God. I'm going to probably mention measles. Okay, so I'm going to minimize the chat. All right, so some of you said these right here. There you go. So yes, you said flu. Y'all said common cold. Someone said measles. Yes, absolutely. We have chickenpox too, strep throat. If you've ever caught strep throat, it's not fun. Chagas. We have ear infections that are usually caused by germs. HIV, AIDS is also a germ, and salmonella infection, which is a result of contaminated food. I did see bronchitis, and anytime you see an itis behind a word, usually it refers to inflammation of that part. Just so it might be a symptom of, let's say, like an infection or something, right? But it's not an actual disease itself. But yes, these are some of the common illnesses caused by germs. But I want to say something. So germs are everywhere, right? Every single day we interact with germs. They coexist with us. And so I want to share something about germs, and I can't move forward without saying this to you. It's my public service announcement. Not all of them are bad. And you might be like, what? Yes, oftentimes we talk about germs, And when we talk about germs, we talk about those pathogens that are disease-causing or microorganisms, sorry. But they're not all that bad, and we actually interact with them every single day, and we don't get sick. So how are they beneficial to us? Well, here are some examples. And the first one is they help us bring nutrients into the soil. And so without them, you really wouldn't have vegetables or fruits. And so it's been a while since I've looked at this process. So it's called nitrogen fixation. But really, bacteria, without them, they do this kind of magic thing. They bring nutrients into the soil from the air, and boom, we have vegetables. So they are definitely super beneficial in giving us food. And I know you have heard the term gut health, right? It's super, super popular right now. Everybody's doing probiotics. Oh my God, I want to be healthy. And the reason being is, yes, we do have a microbiome, and the gut microbiome, sorry, that helps us digest food, and it also impacts our mood. Now, the science behind that is relatively new, and so we're still trying to figure it out, but it's an interesting line of research. So if you're interested, I encourage you to look that up. Now, the reproductive tract is also there because we do have bacteria that live in our tract. And what they do is that basically they take up space. And what they're doing when they do that is they're not allowing other bacteria to live there, if that makes any sense. So imagine a movie theater that is able to have a capacity of 100. There's already 100 bacteria. And so other little bacteria that might be dangerous come in, and they're like, nah, you can't sit here, right? Okay, cool. We also use fungi for baking. So yeast is super helpful. We've all loved bread. If I have some bakers here, I know you've been baking during this pandemic, during this stay home. So you have to thank some, microorganisms for that. Also, because Rosalind Franklin discovered the double helix, so the DNA strand, right? We all know the DNA strand looks, thanks to Rosalind Franklin. We have done so much when it comes to genetic modification. So what we've done, and when I say we, the human species, we have been able to alter the genetics of bacteria and viruses to do what we want them to do using their amazing, features, if that makes any sense, or characteristics. So bacteria produce insulin, and we've also modified viruses to attack cancerous cells, which I think is amazing. But we're not here to talk about those good microorganisms. This is just me telling you, hey, they're not bad. You do see them every day. But what happens when you interact with them that's bad, and how do they get into your body? Well, that brings me to the next slide. Modes of disease transmission. Whew, okay, so this basically means how do they spread? And so whenever we talk about the spread of disease, and when I say disease, I mean infectious diseases, we can divide it between contact transmission and indirect transmission, okay? So stay with me, and let me make sure that, there's 4 chats. Okay, so I'm gonna look at the chat after the modes of transmission slide. Okay, so let's look at the first mode of transmission, which is droplet transmission. Now, if you don't know the terminology, that's okay, because I know that every single one of us understand this mode of spread or transmission. Because since we're little, we're told, hey, when you sneeze, cover your mouth, right? When you cough, cover your mouth. When you sneeze, cover your mouth. So even though you don't know the terminology, you are aware that germs can spread by coughing and sneezing. But I'm here to tell you that talking also can spread germs and infect others. Now the next one is person-to-person contact. So that is sexual contact, right? I mean, that's an example of person-to-person contact. So for instance, STIs, right? You need person-to-person contact, you need sexual contact for it to transmit. It won't transmit just by skin to skin, it won't transmit with kissing. Some STIs might, but for the most part, in general, STIs will be sexual contact, right? Then you have indirect transmission, and I'm gonna linger in this one a little bit because this one is similar to the droplet transmission, but there is a key difference, and there's a reason why we put this under indirect transmission. And so, let's see. So some illnesses do spread through airborne transmission. And what this means is that they spread through the air, but in contrast to droplets, they travel further and they can remain in the air for a longer time. So when this happens, you will hear things like, please stay at a minimum 6 feet away from people. Does that sound familiar? It does, right? So airborne transmission definitely is different from droplets in the sense that you don't have to be close and near to someone to potentially be infected. Okay, the next one is vehicle transmission. So these include contaminated foods, contaminated waters, contaminated, like when I say biological products, think about like blood, and fomites. And fomites is just another fancy word. We all like fancy words. And it basically means objects. So think about your keyboard, think about, I don't know, even this clicker that I'm using to move the slides. So that would be vehicle transmission, right? So again, if you think about what's going on right now, if you think about the pandemic, sometimes illnesses don't have just one mode. They have maybe a major mode of transmission. But, you know, for example, if it's airborne transmission and those particles drop on your keyboard and someone else uses your keyboard and it's contaminated, they might be able to get it too. And the last one is vector transmission, which is mosquitoes, fleas, and ticks. Now, I hope this makes sense. Real quick, I'm gonna check the chat just to make sure that I didn't skip any. Okay, oops, sorry. Yes, the next thing we're gonna talk about is the immune system, but okay, cool. So I did look at everyone's. All right, so I just mentioned too as well, cool. So germs are everywhere. This is how they get into your body, but why is it that you don't get sick every day if they are everywhere? Well, you have an amazing system that protects you, and we call that the immune system, which is my favorite system in the whole body. Okay, so what is the immune system? So the immune system is, hold on y'all, it's composed of special cells, proteins, tissues, and organs that defend you against germs and microorganisms every single day. Emphasis on every single day. So every day your immune system is there working hard so you feel good, so you can wake up and you can do your job or you can take care of the kids, right? So what are the parts of the immune system? Remember, we mentioned that we were going to talk about the parts. So when we look at the immune system, we divide it with the innate immune system and the adaptive immune system. Now, what? I know, this is weird, and I want to say this. Humans love categorizing things. People in science love categories. So it's okay if you don't know these different parts of the immune system, but let me go ahead and give you a brief summary of what these things mean. What does innate mean? What does adaptive mean? So when we say innate immune response, what we mean is basically those very general immune responses that are non-specific and they serve as your first line of defense. And so oftentimes when we talk about the immune system, we talk about the immune system as, or we compare it, or we use metaphors and similes that are related to the military. So if I were to compare the innate immune response to anything, it would be landmines. And the reason being is because it's immediate, it's quick, and it can damage tissues around. So even though, you know, it's quick, well, I guess that's why it can damage tissues, because it's super quick, right? So think about, let me see, what's a good example? If you get a cut and, you know, you start to notice throughout the time, like a couple minutes, you get a little red, maybe some swelling happens. If it's a huge cut, I don't know, maybe it gets, did I say swollen? Probably already. Maybe it gets swollen. Sometimes you might see pus. And all of this is the innate immune response trying to get rid of those bacteria that were introduced to your bloodstream when you got cut. Okay, so again, it's quick, but it might damage surrounding tissues. Now, the adaptive immune response is what we refer to the specific and precise target. So we refer to this, is when we say adaptive immune response, it means the specific and precisely, response to a specific pathogen. And if you were to compare the adaptive immune response to something, when it comes like in comparison to like something like the military, then I would say a sniper, right? Because a sniper has to know its target. It has to know where its target is going to be, how their target looks, and all that stuff. So basically, that's the job of your adaptive immune response, And if you heard of B cells and T cells, those guys are kind of they're big when it comes to this response. And so it takes time, it's slow. And the reason why it's slow is because changes in genetic expression occur. And what that means is that genes are turning on and off to help you fight the pathogen. And it's also responsible for producing antibodies. So if this pathogen ever comes into your body again, you'll remember it, and antibodies are going to be there to protect you. Whew. Okay, so that's the immune system in a mouthful, but I can't move on without telling you about the structural defenses. Yes, you see a whole long list, and let me explain. So epithelium is a fancy word for skin. So if you look at your hands right now, if you look at your forearms, you have skin all over, and your skin is the largest organ in your body, which is super amazing. And there's a reason why we tell you, hey, wash your hands frequently, right? Because yes, it's awesome that germs don't get into, I guess, basically we tell you to wash your hands because your skin's protecting you. What you don't want to do is bring the hands to your face, but think about it. Like, your skin literally is protecting you. And if you have, let's say, a cut in your hands, so you might be susceptible to getting these germs into your bloodstream and into your body. But that just, proves that it does such a good job at protecting you, and you don't even know it, right? And then you have the respiratory tract. So, so you have mucous membranes, you have cilia. Cilia are little hairs in your throat, in your tract, that help bring up anything that gets caught in your mucous membranes. It brings up all these pathogens that might cause disease, right? You have your GI tract, which is composed of the stomach, which has acids and enzymes that break down food. You have urinary tract, and you have the reproductive tract, which again, they have, well, I didn't mention it, they have a pH level that makes some bacteria not happy there, if that makes any sense. Okay, so if you want to learn more about the wonderful world of the immune system, I encourage you to go to this QR code. But I am going to move on, and I hope I made sense. Now let's talk about the elephant in the room, because I just can't move on into the next slide till I tell you a little bit about this. So the reason I'm bringing this up is because I've heard this so much, and what I've heard is this: I just want to get it over with and get COVID-19 so I can be immune. Okay. Now, COVID-19 is a disease. SARS-CoV-2 is the virus. So that's the name of the novel coronavirus. Okay. So what is herd immunity? Well, herd immunity is when most of the population is immune to an infectious disease, and this protects people who are not immune or immunocompromised. And so why is it that I'm talking about specifically herd immunity when it comes to SARS-CoV-2? Well, I think there is this misconception that herd immunity is the same throughout all diseases, and I'm here to tell you that it isn't. Herd immunity is usually achieved when 60 to 90% of the population is immune. Now, I don't know about you, but if someone were to tell me, buy this, this product, and our refund policy is that you might get 60 to 90% of your money back, I would be like, no, thank you. I'm not interested. So the reason I'm using this simile or metaphor is because when we talk about herd immunity, when it comes to SARS-CoV-2, just remember that it's a little bit more complicated than you think. And so if you think about diseases like chickenpox, that would make sense because the symptoms of chickenpox are not as severe. But when it comes to SARS-CoV-2, please consider the following: mortality rates. Higher risk of severe disease. I have a lot of people tell me, well, the risks are low. And I'm like, yeah, but the risk of severe disease are quite higher than other pathogens. So, that idea that the risks are low is not a good thing to say or to live by. Also, it's novel. So I know a lot of you are tired of the day-to-day changes of this virus. I am someone that likes to learn about the spread of disease, so maybe I find fascination. But me too, I've stopped reading so much on what's going on because it is overwhelming. And so when it comes to herd immunity and SARS-CoV-2, just remember that for most diseases, we have about decades, if not centuries, of data about the disease. But for this virus, we only have about, 5 months of research. So just be aware, things change day to day. So we are still trying to learn about it, and we still don't know if how much the population needs to have it to have a herd immunity. And immunity isn't lifelong or always. Again, germs are diverse in nature, so they act differently. And if you do want to hear from someone that is a doctor who's an infectious disease or used to be an infectious disease director, here's a QR code to a video where she explains how SARS-CoV-2 might act. But again, it's just speculation and assumptions based on other pathogens, and we cannot assume. So now you know about herd immunity, about the immune system, but what if your immune system, I don't know, just didn't do its job, or I mean, it's always doing its job, but you still got sick? Well, what to do if you get sick? That's the next thing I'm going to talk about. If you are sick, my first tip is please stay home. The reason why you want to stay home is because you don't want to spread the disease. And I know that we love to power through, that we love to say, oh, it's just a bug, I'm gonna get better. But I mean, you should be home, right? You should be resting. And also, please don't go into the office or to a public space spreading this disease or illness, right? Even if it's a common cold. But I do want to say that leaving home to go to the grocery is completely okay. But for respiratory illnesses, we have always, and when I say we, I say public officials, recommended that you wear a face mask. This is not new. It might feel like it's new because it's a pandemic and we're seeing it be suggested globally. But please wear a face mask if you go to the grocery store, and if you can, ask someone else to go for you. My second point, as far as tips to do, what to do when you're sick, is take care of yourself. I'm talking about germs, I'm saying all these things, but the main thing that I want you to do is to follow the instructions of your healthcare provider, okay? Get rest and stay hydrated. Make sure you have enough water, that you're drinking water, and get medical care when needed. So if you are sick and things are not getting better, call your GP, talk to your healthcare provider and say, hey, this is not getting better. What should I do? And if you are feeling, sicker and just really, really bad, seek medical care. Don't avoid it. All right, separate yourself from others in your home if you do live with them. And I know this is easier said than done because I, for instance, live in a small apartment. I live with my partner and we only have one restroom. So the reality is that we're going to be sharing restrooms for the most part. So if you are caring for someone that is sick or someone around you that's sick, just follow good personal hygiene, right? So you can reduce the spread and avoid sharing personal household items, right? If you can't separate yourself from them, if you must use the, maybe they're in the living room or whatever it might be, just avoid sharing personal household items. So that could mean refraining from sharing toys, refraining from sharing a blanket with that person or whatever it might be. Just make sure they have all the items that they need for themselves so you don't contaminate yourself. Also, clean and disinfect frequently touched items. So if you might be in front of a laptop right now, your keyboard is one of those, right? A lot of people don't disinfect frequently touched items like doorknobs, faucets, or whatever it might be. So you want to make sure, especially when someone is sick, that you are doing it, and also when someone isn't sick. Monitor your symptoms. A lot of people, when they get sick, they start feeling good in the evening. They're like, I'm going to go back to work tomorrow. Don't do that. But once your symptoms stopped, please, please, please don't go back to work or school or a public space. Check public health recommendations on that specific illness and then find out when you should be going back. So it might be, for example, symptoms stop. They must stop for 24 hours and then you can go back. So something like that. And you just want to check what it says for your specific illness. Now, I know you're tired of hearing this too. Hand hygiene. Hand hygiene is super, super, super important. It is the best thing that you can do to avoid the spread of infectious diseases. I'm gonna say it again. Hand hygiene and good hygiene when it comes to hand washing is the best thing that you can do to avoid the spread of infectious diseases. So I'm not gonna just tell you how to wash your hands because I hope you've seen those videos already on how to properly wash your hands, but I will say this, wash your hands often. Wash them after blowing your nose, after using the restroom, after removing gloves, after eating and preparing food, and after a contact with someone that is sick. Now for me, I wash my hands even before I go walk my dogs, and after I come back as well, okay? So just wash them frequently as much as possible. And do make sure that you are using lotion if you're washing your hands frequently and they're cracking, because again, you want to make sure that you protect that protective barrier, which is your skin. Also, hand sanitizer. It should not replace soap and water. So if you have soap and water and you can get up and wash your hands, please do not use hand sanitizer. Soap and water is always going to be your first option. However, if you don't have soap and water, please use a hand sanitizer with at least 60% alcohol. Cover your hands with the hand sanitizer and rub them till they are dry and completely dry. So now that is all I have for you when it comes to the lecture part, but now I just want to do a game. So this is where you have to bear with me because this is the first time that I use it. I think we're good with time. So this is what you have to do, and please tell me in the chat if you are having problems. So I want you to get your phone, point your camera on the QR code. If you don't want to do that, you can go to slido.com, SLIDO.com, and you can enter the event code. Now, if you are participating, please, please, please tell me in the chat so I can wait for you to access the QR code and get the event code, because I'm going to stop sharing this screen in just a second so I can show the quiz on the screen. So if you don't, like, let's say you're listening to me via your phone, you don't have access to a laptop, that's okay. I'm going to put the quiz on the screen. So if you just want to keep a piece of paper with your answers to see if they're right or wrong, I encourage you to. Okay. So I'll give you guys just a couple of seconds. Let me see. Okay, I have to open the chat, and whenever I do that, I get a little like frazzled. So, all right. So if you are participating, please let me know. Just put, I don't know, I'm participating, so I can wait for you, and I am going to wait. Let me see. All right. All right. All right, so I'm going to assume that you guys have the information, and I'm going to share the screen with these quiz. So give me 2 seconds. Oh, there it goes. Okay. Cool. All right. Now I'm going to put that full screen. There it goes. Oh. Yay, cool. Okay, so I have Michelle, Nicole, Jennifer, Edie, Angela, and Andrea. Thank you. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and start. And before I start, this is how it's gonna work. You're gonna have 20 seconds to answer the questions. And then after those 20 seconds, I'm going to reveal the answer, and I'm going to talk about why the answer is what it is. Okay, so basically you're going to see a question, you're going to answer it, the answer is going to be revealed, and then we're going to cover the facts. Cool? Awesome. Okay, so I'm going to start. Again, if you are not on the online quiz, that's okay. Get a piece of paper, answer it on your own, and I'm going to verbally share the answer. So just hold on. All right, so if we're ready, I'm going to start. I can't see the chat, just FYI. So if you guys tell me anything, or if my colleagues are in the chat, just monitor them for me, please. All right, so let's start the quiz. The first question says, your cell phone has more germs than a toilet seat. True or false? Oh. So there you go. Sorry, everyone. Okay, give me 1 second. There you go. Awesome. So the correct answer is cool. So everyone got it true. Yay. Or got it right. Sorry. So yes, you are right. The reason being is because you're always on your phone, and we always seem to associate the toilet seat or the restroom as being dirty. And so you clean it more often than your phone, and so you just carry your phone without disinfecting it ever. And so there's just all these icky germs on there. So again, my tip to you, frequently disinfect regularly touched or frequently touched items. All right, so ready for the next question? Okay. Chlorine keeps pools germ-free, so as long as that is being cleaned regularly, they can be trusted. Sorry if I'm making weird noises. I just get excited with quizzes. I wish I was participating with you. Ooh, okay. Yay, we're gonna debunk a myth. Okay, so it might be the wording. So what's the correct answer? False. So 60% of you got it right. And let me explain. So let's see. So when you talk about germs, please remember that they're diverse and that they're different from one another, right? And so yes, for example, with COVID-19 or SARS-CoV-2, the CDC said, yeah, we haven't found them in pools, so it's okay. But with like COVID-19 is respiratory, so why does that matter? I guess you can go to the pool, but you still have to be far away from people. But when it comes to just in general germs, most die in an hour if the chemicals in the pool are at the right level. Emphasis on the right level. And some can live for days because, again, they're diverse. And so if you swallow water and it's contaminated, you can get sick. So that's why if you are sick, don't go to the pool. Stay away. If you're going to go to the pool during this pandemic, practice social distancing and try not to be there for a long period of time. All right, next question. It's unlikely that I will get sick from an infectious disease by sitting on a public toilet seat. True or false? Ooh. All right, so it is true. Okay, this is nice. Sorry guys, I'm just excited with your answers because I love debunking this. So using a public restroom should not scare you, number one. Yes, if it's unsanitary, okay, then of course you're not gonna wanna go in there. But just think about like a nice clean public restroom, right? You shouldn't feel like, oh my God, I can't go in there. I'm gonna wait till I go home because of all these germs. Don't do that. Because just sitting on a toilet seat in a public restroom is not going to give you any type of infectious diseases. Usually what happens is fecal matter that's on faucets, for example. So you transmit fecal matter into your eyes and that causes disease or whatever it might be. But it really isn't just the act of putting your bum into the toilet seat. Does that make sense? Because again, your skin is amazing and it protects you. So yeah, just FYI, that's what we always tell you, wash your hands. All right, next question. Antibiotics can be used against COVID-19. Mm-hmm. Okay, awesome. Okay. Okay, so that is false. And so COVID-19 is a disease that is a result of a viral infection. Again, I've said it multiple times, the virus is SARS-CoV-2. Please say the right name or just say the novel coronavirus. And you can't use antibiotics against SARS-CoV-2, right? You would use antivirals, for instance. So antibiotics are used against bacterial infections. So yeah, anyways, it is false. Okay. Next question. There's a preservative found in vaccines that can cause autism in children. Sorry for making a lot of noise, everyone. Okay. Yes, 80% of you are correct. Now this is a topic that is like a hot topic. I don't want to get into the conspiracy theory of it. I really don't. But this is what I have to say. Yes, vaccines have preservatives, but those preservatives are to help prevent contamination from bacteria or fungi. There's no scientific evidence that they can cause autism in children. And autism in children has been has been detected from birth. So there's no way that a vaccine would cause it if we use that logic. Also, the person that is responsible for this conspiracy theory or this myth spreading was a physician, or basically a study was released in 1998. It raised concerns on the possible link of the MMR vaccine with autism. But that author of the paper can't practice medicine anymore because they were found guilty of serious professional misconduct by the General Medical Council in 2010. So I encourage you to have a conversation with healthcare providers, not a plastic surgeon, but actually a GP, someone that that works in the medical community and has patients about this topic. Again, I'm not going to get into the ins and outs of the conspiracy theory, but I just do want to debunk that theory right here, right now. All right, next question. I rarely get sick, so I do not need to get vaccinated. Okay, yay, all of us got this right. Yes, this is false. So, so what I think, or what I'm going to say, I guess what I'm saying it, is that vaccines are so effective that we have this idea that the diseases that they protect us from aren't serious. So someone mentioned measles earlier, and measles spread super fast. And so what happened, because everybody was like, oh my God, vaccines cause autism, people started to stop getting vaccinated. And then there's this like spread, right? Like a little outbreak started to happen. So these diseases, these pathogens are still around us. They are still a threat, but because vaccines exist, we're able to avoid them. So even if you are healthy, you can get sick, you can go to the hospital from a vaccine preventable disease. So get vaccinated, don't skip vaccinations. All right, next question. Antibacterial soap is not better than ordinary soap. True or false? Okay, so time's up. Okay. So 20%. Okay, let's see. Yes, true. Okay, so according to the FDA, ordinary soap and water are enough to kill disease-causing germs. And there's actually some worry that antibacterial soap is going to give rise to a superbug. That's what you usually hear when bacteria become resistant. And so, yeah, I would just use ordinary soap. You don't have to go out of your way to try to get antibacterial soap. It's actually not needed and it's not recommended. And the FDA has asked companies that are marketing soap as being antibacterial to prove to them, hey, give me the data that this is better. And some of them have stopped putting antibacterial soap on the shelves because of that. Okay, so last question. Leftovers are safe until they smell bad. Okay. Drum roll. Awesome. Okay, so correct answer is false. Yay. And it's funny because I know this is false, but like I'll still smell leftovers. It's just a habit. I don't know why. I caught myself doing it today during lunchtime. But yes, smell is not an indication of whether food is safe. The types of bacteria that cause foodborne illnesses do not affect the taste, smell, or appearance of food. So best practice is if you do not know how long that's been in the fridge or freezer, toss it out. And give, like if leftovers have been there for 3 to 4 days, cool. If they've been there longer, toss it out. Cool. All right, so now I'm gonna reveal the leader. So drum roll, everyone. Okay. Okay. Kayla, I knew you were gonna be number one because you're competitive. Angela, good job. Nicole, good job. Jennifer, yes. Edie's, good job. Awesome. So I'm going to pause for just a second because I'm going to change screens. But I'm so happy that y'all participated. This is fun. I wish I was, again, doing it with you. Um, okay, so let me change the screen. Okay, so how did you do, right? Now, I know some of y'all might have been like, oh gosh, I didn't do as hot as I thought I would, but that's okay. Quite honestly, a lot of us have beliefs as myths. I believe some of them, if not all of them, at one point in life. And you just kind of learn and you grow and you change habits, or you're like, oh, okay, so I'm going to debunk that myth. And that's completely okay. But please, please do your best to identify myths. Ask your doctor or healthcare provider about them and debunk them together. Don't go on Facebook to try to find out if that conspiracy theory is right, if pandemic is accurate. It's not. So yeah, so just talk to a healthcare provider, someone that knows the science behind things. Okay, so to recap, germs are everywhere and many are not harmful. However, knowing about the bad ones can help break the chain of infection. Herd immunity varies by disease. Do not assume that it's lifelong. Be aware of myths, again, can't emphasize that enough, and debunk them with the help of a doctor or a healthcare provider. Wash your hands with just regular, ordinary soap and water frequently to stop the spread of infectious diseases. When sick, stay home. Do not power through. And that is it for today. So now I am going to open it up. Sorry, let me go back for questions. So I'm going to look at the chat. Sorry, I'm going to open it. So if you have questions, please ask them away. And if you don't have questions, please complete the survey. So get that phone out. If you participated in the quiz, I know you are able to use the QR code. I'm watching you. So use that QR code and fill out that survey while I answer questions, please. We just want to hear from you. For example, do you think that we need to expand on this topic? Maybe you want to hear about personal hygiene. Maybe you want to hear about, I don't know, reproductive health, whatever it might be. Tell us how we're doing. We just want to know that we're working for you and that we're giving you content that you want to hear. Okay, so are there any questions, y'all?